Yes, a very good morning to everyone, and welcome to the biggest peep show of all time in the crypto market. There's no other way to put it. Last night, it felt like 99% of everyone out there got completely and brutally screwed in an R-rated version that I myself haven't experienced in my 5 years in the crypto space. So it's really unbelievable. Yesterday, I kept posting it in the Telegram group. I honestly have no words for what happened yesterday. And not just from a positive perspective, because some people, myself included, managed to get through it pretty well. Though honestly, that was more luck than skill or anything else. You have to be real about that because you can't plan or predict moves like that in advance. Honestly, not a single one of my bots kept running. Every single one of my bots had its stop loss triggered. Every long trade that was still open was luckily secured at stop loss entry. And fortunately, I have to say the most common exchanges, BingX, PionX, BitJet, worked properly in this situation. These are also cases where, for example, Bitpanda and CoinX were, from what I've heard, in total outage, completely down. You couldn't even log in or do anything else, so you really have to say some people were definitely a bit lucky in this situation, myself included in a way. But yesterday, I already posted in the Telegram group about this whole situation, and I can actually read it out to you now. I really have to say something about it because in 5 years, I've never experienced anything like this, and it can have very negative effects on the crypto market. And I'm saying this exactly as it is because it's true. We've really never seen flash crashes of this magnitude before. So I looked it up for you on Twitter, who posted it here. Smart money crypto market. In the last 24 hours, 1.64 million trades with a total value of 19 billion US dollars were liquidated. 19 billion US dollars, that's more than the FTX crash and the COVID crash combined, or probably more than all the crashes put together. It's unbelievable how much capital just flowed out yesterday or has flowed out. Longs were wiped out, and by all, I really mean all of them. We'll take a look at the charts in a moment. Possibly even people's livelihoods were affected, and I feel extremely sorry for those people. For people who maybe still had a lot of longs open because of a possible altcoin season and so on, etc., and so forth. Without a stop loss, they really got hit hard, to put it bluntly. And I don't mean that in a funny way, but in all seriousness. This really goes too far. I hope everyone here is okay. And I mean that completely seriously. That was really important for me to say again yesterday, because in the end, I think a lot of people, yes, possibly even livelihoods, and above all, a lot of money was lost. I also posted this in the group yesterday because at some prices, well, we can take a quick look at that. Bitcoin has at least dropped to somewhat humane levels, 101,000 US dollars. Just about, and you have to say, Bitcoin and Ethereum were the only coins that still more or less followed technical chart patterns. Bitcoin, these two yellow lines were the strong support, and Bitcoin just barely held above it. Okay. Ethereum, okay, perfect. You really have to say it landed perfectly in the lower buy zone, and that was also triggered. But everything that was liquidated before that, we'll just leave that aside for now. Still, you have to say those were the only two coins that actually worked. The two big players, as I'll call them here, did have a 20% crash. So if we take a look, Bitcoin has only dropped since this news came out about China or about Trump in this case. If we take a look, since midday, Bitcoin has dropped 16% at times, and we're not talking about 24 hours here. This happened within hours, in just 2 to 3 hours. Or these moves here, if we're being precise, let's look at the 5-minute or 3-minute time frame. This move here happened within a quarter of an hour. Just the move from 107,000 down to 101,000 happened in 3 minutes. You have to be able to react that quickly first. Many people, as I said, couldn't even trade at that point because the exchange was down or something else was down, so they couldn't really buy in here. Of course, this could have played out much, much further down. But with Ethereum and Bitcoin, those were the only ones where things worked reasonably well. Those are also the positions where I'm still in longs right now. But otherwise, and that's when things got surreal yesterday. That's why I was so active in the group. I think I've never posted so much every 2 minutes. Then something like Ondo happened. We had an average entry price of 29 cents. Just a day before, I said on the live stream, yeah, Ondo is an insanely strong project. And then when we look at the chart, I was really sitting there live watching it. What the fuck? Just look at the last price range. It looks like a total mess. Just this range here, you might think, okay, that's 2 or 3 cents. And then comes a liquidation cascade that brought Ondo down to the 24-cent range. And Ondo really saved my ass yesterday. So Ondo completely saved my portfolio again, and along with Bitcoin, Ethereum, Solana, CAS, and Ondo, those were the only 5 positions I managed to buy more of yesterday. And I did it quickly, and with Ondo, I just got lucky. I really have to say, I got lucky this time. But if we just take a look at this Ondo, a really strong project. 73% in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 hours. And the biggest part of that, Ondo lost 69% in just 1 fucking hour. Probably in 5 minutes. You can't tell me that's normal. Oh yeah, USA, China stuff, tariffs, oh god. No, forget it. So we are never going to drop 70% in the crypto market because of tariffs or something like that. Never. Then there were situations yesterday, and that's why I'm picking out Casper right now. Casper was at Maxi. I think that must have been the spot price at 47 cents. Remember that amount. Now let's go. And that wasn't just on the exchange I'm about to look up here, but where should we look for it? Here. Check this out. Casper was suddenly here at 0.009 US dollar cents. Especially the futures got wiped out. If you had gotten in at the bottom here with Casper, you would already be up 600%. There you have your altcoin season. Congratulations. Arbitrage opportunities were created yesterday. That was absolutely outrageous. Yesterday, let me see if I can find it quickly now because I can't look up everything. But wait. I actually looked it up specifically, or rather there. Spot buy, 30% up within seconds. I wrote it down. Here I looked up the prices for you. At Maxi, we had a spot price of 43 US cents. At BitGet, it was 43.043 US cents, and at BitGet, almost unchanged at 0.053. And then I went to BingX and saw, spot at 0.034. So I went long on it and of course also bought spot. And not even 10 minutes later, here I even wrote arbitrage possible. I don't know who read it. And then not even, when was it? 2 minutes later, it was over. Spot purchase, 30% profit within seconds because arbitrage opportunities suddenly opened up. By now, the whole topic is completely over again. The exchanges have all adjusted their prices again, but at times the difference between spot and futures was breathtakingly large. Those were opportunities. If the exchange was working, you could take advantage of them. That was the only positive thing you could say after such a crash. Because otherwise, you have to admit, everyone got completely whipped. And I really mean that. Even a spot, 87%. You can forget it. Anyone who had some random orders lying around at the bottom there. And I'm telling you, from now on, I'm going to start placing really deep spot orders, even with 60% way down there. At least with the big 5. Because if something like that happens once, it can definitely work again. I should mention someone posted in the Telegram group earlier what could be a possible explanation for this. I'd like to quickly read that out to you now. Suzanne wrote it. Good morning, everyone. Crypto market explanation for yesterday's crash. Is that true? Apparently, there were API errors across the entire market. All these major players trade using automated strategies via APIs. Makes perfect sense. In any case, it seems these API endpoints crashed. And the important thing, especially on DEX, is this. So it was less of a CEX problem. The CEXs, meaning the centralized exchanges, did have issues, you have to say, but they didn't go completely down. At least many of them didn't. So we can be glad that they weren't completely down and that you could still log in. That's really a positive thing at this point. And a lot is now being handled via DEXs. So these market-making funds operate trading DEX, meaning they run trading DEX there. Multi-exchange strategies, if there's a minor disruption, it's still manageable, especially if it only affects DEX. But since projects like Asta and Leute and of course Hyperliquid are now generating billions in volume and with points programs, it makes it worthwhile for market makers and funds to be active there, moving capital back and forth. However, if an error occurs, the entire chain of API connections collapses. That probably led to old rhythm errors. Basically, it was a systemic API failure event, a kind of technical liquidity shock caused by dependencies between automated strategies and error-prone API connections. With increasing DEX volume, which is actually always a positive thing since it means people are venturing back into the decentralized space a bit, with points, injectives, and cross-chain solutions, this type of risk is becoming increasingly relevant. It's the modern equivalent of a flash crash, only with on-chain causes instead of purely exchange software issues. Thank you so much, Suzanne, for sharing this. I can really imagine something like that happening. These decentralized exchanges, Hyperliquid, Asta, and all the others, Avant and so on, have increased tremendously. That would be a plausible explanation for me. Trump and China is not a plausible explanation for me as to why a 90% crash happens in spot markets. Never. And those were futures. So many spot charts were still somewhat lucrative, I'll just say that. But I kind of regret closing the longs. I didn't want to be greedy. I ended up closing it at 0.64. But of course, I bought spot. And it happened everywhere. Tau! Because just yesterday, I wrote in the Telegram group, yeah, Tau is doing great and so on. Our bot, so perfect performance. I even wrote here, Tau is running very well and things like that. And even Tau wasn't spared. So really, we dumped 64% from the top down. Bitcoin and Ethereum actually got off pretty well and even held some technical chart levels. But for the rest, it was doomsday. It was really, truly doomsday. Just look at this. VeChain was at 0.023 yesterday, and at one point dropped to 0.009. VeChain was under 1 cent. Other strong projects also got absolutely wrecked. Anyone who managed to get in at those levels, congratulations. You probably made the profit of your life. At least I hope you really did. And now you might be enjoying your altcoin season, for example with Avalanche, which just went up 155% overnight. But let me tell you, that was only a very few people. You can't even react and click buy fast enough in a phase like that to say, wow, awesome. Of course, now it feels like everyone is making big moves again, also on Twitter and so on. Now everyone is sharing, I told you I was buying here, I bought in big time, and things like that. Yeah, congratulations. But you also have to think a bit about the people who got completely wiped out here. I mean, really wiped out. And that's why I was considering whether to even make a video, because I don't want to provoke or anything like that. Because I really mean it seriously. Even my portfolio suddenly dropped 10-15% yesterday. And you know, I had actually sold most of my Bitcoin and Bitcoin holdings. Yesterday was actually the first time in a while that I really bought again. Because to me, the prices had been overheated the whole time anyway. But for prices to drop like that, you can't even imagine that in your wildest dreams. Really, you can't. We were at bear market levels here. Just as an example with Avalanche, if we move our bear market levels and buy zone over here, no one expects a cryptocurrency to crash by 50% in a single day. Or in the best case, where our second buy zone was 69%. Never. Otherwise, I would have placed orders there too. And I will do that in the future. I guarantee you I will place an order down here for Avalanche. Somewhere around here, probably. It really doesn't matter what the amount is, but just so there's an order down there. Not with leverage, a spot order. But you can't predict something like that. Look at BNB. BNB was still at an all-time high, and even BNB, and you really have to say BNB has performed very well in the last few days, lost 34%. And that's still okay. The big players, aside from, and I really have to say this now, it's a miracle that I'm saying this, but I bought XRP. I bought XRP yesterday. And now just very briefly, let's look at the daily time frame. Yes, we had an ABCDE correction up here, but no one predicts that here. The correction went here. We're on Binance to $1.22. On some exchanges, we were below $1 at 88 cents. That means on some exchanges, XRP just filled everything here. Completely. XRP made the entire move, reset it, and was instantly bought up again. Within a remarkably short period, specifically an hour, its value dramatically went from just $1.26, experiencing a significant rebound, back up to a much higher $2.34. XRP made a move yesterday. If you placed orders there, congratulations. Seriously, just take that in for a moment. Just on a daily view, XRP dumped 55% at one point. I mean, these are moves that are just so surreal. Solana. Okay, I have to put in a good word for Solana too. Solana even triggered as well. These are the positions I currently have open. They worked out. And that was more luck than sense because Bitcoin, because Ethereum, because I also got in on Casper and Solana. Those were the only ones where I had limit orders in place set beforehand so that it worked. That could have gone completely wrong. I could have been totally liquidated. That was more luck than skill. It had nothing to do with trading. I'm telling you that now as well. Just because those positions got filled now doesn't mean I'm better than anyone else. That was pure luck, I really have to say. And nothing else. Because Solana got completely wrecked on some exchanges. So Solana was at $168 here. On other exchanges, we dropped down to $125 at times. I'm telling you, I was more lucky than smart here. That's just how it is. And the positions are also secured, so anything is possible now. The question is, how will the market react in the future? With Bitcoin, we really have a long wick now. And I always say, you know, I'm a fan of this. I always say the wicks will get filled sooner or later. Seriously. The question is, will these get filled? I suspect with Bitcoin, maybe with Ethereum and Solana, the big players, I don't even think XRP will get filled. As bearish as I always am on XRP, but I don't even think XRP will get filled. But those other wicks, for example, the ones on Binance, I think those will still get filled. And that's why I would recommend to you now, just chill out this weekend for those who made a profit. Congratulations, I'm happy for everyone who made profits. But also spare a thought for the people who may have lost a lot at this point. Seriously, that's important to me. And saying, I'm way up now, blah, blah, blah. Yes, but a lot of people lost a lot of money there. Spot trading is less affected. But people who trade have really, really gotten hit hard. Without any protection. A little fun has to be too. But you definitely know that I mean this seriously. Otherwise, for now, just wait and see if anything happens. I'd say wait until new patterns really start to emerge. Let the market digest this first, and then we'll see what happens next. But right now to say, hey, awesome, we're definitely going long here, that's just too soon. Let it settle for a day or two, and then we'll take another calm look at it on Monday. Otherwise, I wish you all a wonderful Saturday morning. Take care of yourselves. Feel free to leave a like on the video. We'll talk again tomorrow or at the latest on Monday. No, tomorrow. Tomorrow is the live stream. We'll take another calm look at everything tomorrow. Otherwise, I wish you a great day. Until then, ciao ciao, and as always, stay cool.